Recap: Tales of Herding Gods, Chapter 425. Chapter Bathump. Star Sovereign knelt heavily upon the shattered earth, bracing his body against the divine sword planted before him. Blood seeped through his robes, yet he laughed while gazing at the old adversary slowly approaching. His voice carried the chill of dying starlight. "Old human emperor," he said with a faint smile, "you and I are merely puppets hanging from the strings of fate, toys played with by the true gods. Even if you struggle here to block us, what difference will it make? Two forces from the high heavens have descended. We are only here to distract you, the ones truly responsible for awakening the meteorological divine weapons. They are the other group. Eternal Peace is destined to perish." Before him, the primordial spirit behind Village Chief burned fiercely, blazing like a god forged from pure radiance. Yet the divine figure was exhausted, its brilliance flickering like a dying flame. The blazing form dimmed, nearly extinguished, then suddenly flared again. Again and again the cycle repeated. It was obvious that the aged sword god was forcing his fading life to remain at its peak, burning away the final drops of chi and blood within his ancient body. "Star Sovereign Qiao," Village Chief said as he walked forward, ignoring the chaos of the battlefield around them. His eyes locked onto the fallen god with unwavering intensity. "You and I have fought each other for many years. Now that both of us are nearing death, speak honestly. Where is the other group? Do you truly wish to see the countless lives of Eternal Peace Empire erased from the world?" A brittle cracking sound came from deep inside Star Sovereign Qiao's body. The once handsome god had turned pale as death itself. He chuckled weakly. "What do the lives of those lowly creatures matter to me?" he muttered. Raising his head, he stared toward the heavens. "The star that belongs to me is finally about to fall." Kacha, a faint crack appeared in the divine sword resting in his hands. Another followed, then another. The sound multiplied, becoming sharper and faster until the collapse of his body echoed louder than anything else. Behind Village Chief, the primordial spirit dimmed again. The old man forced his chi and blood to surge once more, trying to restore the primordial spirit to its peak. Yet no matter how fiercely he tried, he could not revive it. His body had become like a broken bellows, leaking air from every torn seam. He wished to ignite his life force once more, but his body was already ruined beyond repair. He had been crippled long ago. All 4 of his limbs had been lost. This not only crippled his flesh, but weakened his battle power. But the most crucial fact was something else. He was old, so very old that his lifespan was already reaching its end. Originally, he still had more than a year left. Had he lived quietly and cultivated diligently, he might have repaired his divine bridge before death arrived, stepping into a higher realm and becoming a god. But this battle had consumed the last remnants of his chi and blood. There was no longer any way to reignite the fire of life. "Tell me," Village Chief shouted. "Where did the other group go? Star Sovereign Qiao, where are you truly from? Were you not once the same as these people you call lowly life forms?" Star Sovereign Qiao had already closed his eyes, waiting for death, but suddenly his body trembled violently. His eyes opened again, empty, lifeless. Sword wounds began to split open across his body. One after another they appeared, deeper and deeper, as though an invisible blade were slowly carving apart his flesh. Village Chief's final strike had severed his life force. His divine treasures were collapsing. His corporeal body was already tearing apart. Death was unavoidable. "What's the point?" Star Sovereign Qiao lowered his head and sneered weakly. "Do you still have the strength to stop them? You're dying too, old friend. Sit down and accept your fate. Follow me to the other side. We can walk the road to the Yellow Springs together." "Tell me," Village Chief said with grim determination, "which direction did they go?" Star Sovereign Qiao lifted his head and stared at him. Then his empty eyes slowly shifted toward the vast darkness of the great ruins. His breathing suddenly grew hurried. "They should already be close," he coughed violently. "If you still have the strength, then go stop them." Suddenly his expression twisted with terror. He grabbed Village Chief's clothing with desperate strength and screamed until his voice became hoarse. "I see them! The fires of hell! The flames of countless people from Eternal Peace! They're demanding my life! Stop them! Don't let their deaths become my sin." His eyes bulged wildly. "Don't come closer! Don't come closer! This isn't my fault. I was only following orders. Every grievance has its cause. Every debt has its debtor. I wasn't the one who wanted you all dead." Village Chief struggled free from his grip. Without another word, he turned and rushed away. Behind him, Star Sovereign Chow's pupils shrank smaller and smaller. It was as if he were witnessing something unimaginably horrifying. "It's not my fault," he screamed in madness. "I had no choice. Don't come to claim my life." His voice cracked with terror. "I see paper boats, countless paper boats drifting from eternal peace into the darkness. My God, what is that? The horns of Earth Count." His voice turned shrill with fear. "Hell! This is hell! Save me! True gods! Where are the true gods who oversee me? Save me! You promised Earth Count would never take me away to be judged. Save me!" Moments later, Star Sovereign Chow's breathing ceased. His face froze in endless horror. Pack. The divine sword in his hands crumbled into dust and scattered across the ground. His lifeless body collapsed forward. At the same instant, all the sword wounds erupted together, ripping his corpse apart. Village Chief rushed into the boundless darkness of the great ruins at full speed. His primordial spirit flickered between brightness and dimness. He was forcing the last drops of blood within his body to keep moving, preventing death from claiming him too soon, preventing his determination from fading. He could feel death calling to him. His body was growing weaker and weaker. Soon it would no longer be able to contain his soul. Death was approaching. He felt as though something was chasing behind him. But in truth, he had felt this many times in recent years. It was the summoning of the Yudu world. The laws of heaven and earth within Yudu were pulling at him, trying to drag his soul away. As his body gradually died, the pull became stronger. The call from the world of darkness grew louder and louder. This was the Pact of Earth Count. The moment a person was born, they signed this pact. When their body died, their soul would belong to Earth Count and dwell forever in silence within Yudu. Keeping the body alive was the only way to escape that pact. Gods cultivated their flesh to the divine realm. Within the final divine treasure lay a hidden divine bridge. Their primordial spirit would cross it and ascend as a god. At that moment, their body would become godlike, and their spirit would no longer be bound by the Pact of Earth Count. Village Chief once had that chance, but Star Sovereign Chow had severed that path before dying. Now the old man could only hope to find the other gods and devils from high heavens who had gone ahead to unleash disaster. Yet even if he found them, he did not know whether he still had the strength to fight. "I'm truly old." His chi and blood fluctuated violently. He could barely restrain his primordial spirit. Suddenly it trembled violently, wanting to leave his body. Yet he dared not stop. If he stopped, he might collapse forever. He ran forward frantically. Countless monsters stirred in the darkness. They followed him along the foothills like silent shadows. They were waiting for the moment he died. When he collapsed, they would swarm him and tear his body apart. His pace slowed, slower and slower. His limbless body felt heavier and heavier. A wave of sorrow suddenly surged through his heart. He laughed bitterly. "I suppose I really am dying." Just then he saw a massive bird flapping through the darkness. It flew ahead of him and landed upon a mountain peak. After folding its wings, the creature transformed into a god with a bird's head and a human body. It used its beak to carefully groom its feathers. "Time's up," said a human voice from its beak. Village Chief continued forward. His pace slowed even further. "Give me a moment more." His own voice sounded distant to him, as though it came from thousands of miles away. "Give me one more moment. I still have unfinished matters." The bird-headed god cast him a strange glance. "Time's up. Please wait." Village Chief's voice trembled, as if he were sobbing. "Please wait a moment longer. I cannot allow eternal peace to become hell. I can still fight. I am the human emperor of this land. I still carry its burden and responsibility." Mocking laughter echoed through the darkness. Village Chief's anger surged. "You dare laugh at me? Even if I am old, my ambitions have never changed." The bird-headed god flapped his wings and rose into the sky, scattering the monsters lurking in the shadows. He circled once before landing upon a nearby branch. "I laugh," he said, "at a warrior who has fallen into decline, clinging stubbornly to useless sorrow. You have no strength left." Village Chief ignored him. He staggered onward. After some time, the bird-headed god appeared again before him. "Time to leave," the god said calmly. "If you don't go now, the messenger of death will arrive. There is still an old friend waiting for you in Fengdu." "I can still fight." Village chief, this face turning black. The aura of death had already reached his head. His brain was beginning to die. His divine treasures began to crumble. Yet this primordial spirit still stood up on Magpie Bridge. Below the bridge was endless darkness without bottom. This was his divine bridge, divine treasure. There should have nothing from the outside world there. Yet darkness was invading. Another world was entering. It was the world of Yudu. His body had already reached death. Thus, Yudu was entering through his divine treasure. From the endless darkness, a small paper boat floated into his divine treasure. It drifted toward his primordial spirit. He should leave. If he did not leave, Earthcount would claim his soul. His spirit looked toward the opposite shore of Magpie Bridge. There stood Mysterious Guide Bridge. Yet there remained distance between the two. Only by cultivating secrets of divine crossing could he reach it and step into the legendary realm. But his chi and blood had already withered. His vital chi could no longer circulate through his dying body. Executing secrets of divine crossing was impossible. As the human emperor, his spirit roared in fury. "I must fight once more." But he could not even hear his own voice anymore. Just then, through the darkness, a ship appeared. It sailed through the void. The vessel resembled a three-legged toad formed from mountains and moonlight. Upon it, a giant swung half a broken moon like a weapon, smashing it against a god. With one strike, the enemy was nearly crippled. Village chief froze in shock. It was the moon ship. He had seen this ship once before. When he had gone to search for Carefree Village, Qin had driven it through the darkness to find him. He never expected to encounter it again. A god from high heavens was battling the ship. Compared with Yan Jingjing's careful fighting, Qin fought like a storm of violence. He wielded the broken moon and smashed it at his enemy without hesitation. Utterly reckless, on the ship stood the dragon Qilin. Upon its back rode the little fox and Xiyunxiang. Nearby, a sapphire-blue divine flood dragon king circled the battlefield, fighting another high heavens god. Muir. Tears streamed down Village Chief's face. His heart suddenly grew peaceful. It slowly stopped beating. The bird-headed god glanced at him. "Now you can rest at ease," he said. "Come with me. King Yama is waiting." Village Chief's heart beat once more. Its final beat. He smiled faintly. "I refuse to submit to old age." His primordial spirit leaped from Magpie Bridge and rushed toward the celestial heavens across the far shore. "I was born a god of war." His laughter rang out across the void. "I will never accept death." Sword chi burst forth from his spirit, unrestrained and blazing. It surged toward the radiant celestial heavens. That moment seemed to last forever. But his white-haired body fell from the sky. Qin heard the sound and looked up. He saw Village Chief descending through the air. The old man's body gradually turned into stone, a statue of silent resolve falling from the heavens. Translator: Ninetales. Editor: Dark Gem Thump. Village Chief's stone statue descended heavily before Moonship, crashing down upon the desolate earth. The statue had lost all four of its limbs. It portrayed an aged man who had weathered countless storms of fate. The deep lines across his face seemed carved not merely by a sculptor's hand, but by the bitter chisels of hardship and the long erosion of years. The stone statue gazed toward Qin with a tranquil, relieved smile. The moment Qin saw it, memories surged forth like a breaking tide. He could not help recalling the gentle, affectionate smile of the old man who used to lie back in his recliner, quietly watching over him. "Village Chief?" Qin stood frozen, staring blankly at the stone statue as a sorrow beyond words suddenly flooded his heart. Darkness surrounded him on all sides. The ghostly radiance emanating from the statue illuminated only a small patch of the void. Yet within that faint glow, Qin seemed to see once more the stubborn elder, an old man so resolute that even in death he still sought to shield the boy he had raised. Grandpa Village Chief. Tears slipped from Qin eyes like droplets of moonlight. They drifted slowly through the air, shimmering under the pale lunar glow. At that moment, the miserable cries of the divine flood dragon king echoed through the night. Qin closed his eyes tightly, forcing the moonlit tears from them. Protected by the divine flood dragon king, he had ventured deep into the great ruins. There, he had charged into the place he once believed to be Carefree Village. the vast landship constructed by the Ministry of Heavenly Works. Afterward, he had taken Moonship and begun his return. He had intended to enter the Moonwell, but along the way he encountered another group of gods rushing down from high heavens. Their number was small, only 3. Unlike Star Sovereign Qiao and the others, those 3 gods did not travel with grand displays. They did not transform into streams of starlight that streaked across the heavens. Instead, they moved along the ground, concealing their dazzling divine radiance. Only a faint glow surrounded them, just enough to drive back the monsters lurking within the darkness. When Qin Mu encountered them, one of the gods mistook him for some aberration of the night. The god spoke immediately in the divine tongue, "High heavens is handling affairs. Monsters be gone." The next moment, he suffered Qin Mu's devastating counterattack. Caught entirely off guard, he was struck by the broken moon that came crashing down toward him. The impact shattered every bone in his body. Only then did the remaining 2 gods realize they had encountered a formidable opponent. Qin Mu was different from Yan Jingjing. Yan Jingjing had to fight cautiously so that she would not damage the sun. Qin Mu, however, had no such concerns. He had nothing to restrain him, no consequences to fear. Thus he battled the 2 gods across several thousand miles of desolate terrain. In the end, he relied purely on brute force to cripple the second god. The reason the battle had taken so long was mainly due to the condition of Moonship's moon. Its moon was already broken, far inferior to the sun possessed by Sunship. Sunship carried a complete blazing sun. Moonship's moon, however, had long since extinguished. It was cracked and damaged. After such prolonged combat, Moonship itself had fallen into terrible condition. Even the 2 massive chains that bound the moon had snapped apart. Yet at the instant Qin Mu saw Village Chief, he fell into a daze. The sight of his elder transformed into a stone statue, plummeting from the heavens, stirred up boundless emotion within him. A sorrow beyond description surged through his heart. The divine Flood Dragon King's battle strength was comparable to Dragon-Rearing Sovereign. Yet even Dragon-Rearing Sovereign's abilities were inferior to the other gods of high heavens. Thus, when Qin Mu lost his focus, the divine Flood Dragon King was grievously injured. Qin Mu opened his eyes. He lifted his hand and loosened his grip upon the divine pillars. Slowly, he reached out, wanting to touch the limbless stone statue that still bore a gentle smile. His immense palm swept past the front of the statue, but it did not touch it. Whoosh! His hand suddenly seized a chain hanging in the darkness. His hair whipped wildly as fury ignited within him. The chain shot through the void like a venomous serpent. It wrapped tightly around the god of high heavens, who had gravely injured the divine Flood Dragon King, binding him completely. With his other arms, Qin Mu dragged the broken moon toward himself and smashed it down upon the god. The divine Flood Dragon King cried out in alarm. He was standing right beside them. If he were struck as well, he would either perish instantly or be left barely clinging to life. He rolled and tumbled away frantically to evade the attack. Even so, the half-moon brushed past his body. A massive dragon scale was scraped violently from his flesh. The divine Flood Dragon King clenched his teeth as searing pain tore through him. Tears streamed down his face. Kaboom! The broken moon slammed down upon the god of high heavens. The mountains trembled violently. The monsters lurking within the surrounding darkness shrieked in terror and fled in every direction. Boom! Without speaking a single word, Qin Mu lifted the broken moon once more. He smashed it down, again and again and again and again. Enormous chunks of rock, each the size of a mountain, broke away from the moon. One after another, they shattered into powder beneath the relentless impacts. The god whom Qin Mu had previously crippled turned his head and witnessed the scene. Fear seized his heart. Ignoring his injuries, he staggered to his feet and fled as quickly as he could. His heart pounded wildly as the relentless hammering sounds echoed behind him, striking his mind like thunder. His scalp tingled with dread. This brat is insane. Completely insane. It isn't worth it to stake my life against his. I only came to complete the task assigned by the higher-ups. There's no reason for me to fight to the death. He hurried farther into the distance. Then suddenly, crack! A thunderous sound erupted behind him. The moon finally shattered beneath Qin Mu's relentless smashing. Countless fragments of stone exploded outward, filling the sky. Without the moon, Chinmu immediately felt his strength draining away. He returned to the level of a divine arts practitioner of the Six Directions realm. If the crippled god had turned back to glance at that moment, he could have killed Chinmu with the mere lift of a hand. But that god was terrified beyond reason. He never dared to turn around. Chinmu sat upon the battered moonship, gasping heavily for breath. The dragon Qilin stared at him in fright. The other flood dragons trembled as they hid behind the divine flood dragon king. Every gaze that fell upon Chinmu was filled with terror. Heavy chains dangled from moonship. But the terrifying aura that once surrounded the vessel had vanished completely. The flowing rings of moonlight were gone as well, leaving no trace behind. Darkness surged forward like a tide, gradually engulfing them. Yet the monsters lurking in the darkness kept their distance. None dared approach. Chinmu stared at the smiling stone statue positioned before Moonship. The smile upon it was peaceful and satisfied. "You are still alive. You must still be alive, Divine Flood Dragon King." Chinmu struggled to his feet and shouted, "Go! Lift that stone statue." The Divine Flood Dragon King was badly wounded. It was already difficult for him to remain airborne. He forced himself forward and grasped the statue, lifting it with great effort. Chinmu watched nervously and shouted, "Is it heavy?" The Divine Flood Dragon King quickly placed the statue back down and answered honestly, "Extremely. Carrying a stone statue is the same as carrying a god. Grandpa Blind wouldn't lie to me," Chinmu murmured. "You truly are still alive. You are living somewhere. Just not in this world. Just like the other stone statues in the great ruins, you awaken in the darkness from time to time." Chinmu burst into laughter, but as he laughed, he suddenly wiped tears from his eyes. "I've seen a stone statue come back to life. It rode the dragon Qilin to quell a rebellion, so you must be able to do the same. Right?" Si Yunxiang gazed at the young sacred cult master. Suddenly, she felt that the heart of this boy, this cunning youth known throughout the world as the Great Devil King, was actually pure and fragile. Beneath the mask of firmness and persistence lay a soft heart. Chinmu wiped away his tears and shouted loudly, "You will return, won't you? If I cry, you'll laugh at me. You'll say I'm still just a wimpy child." He summoned the Divine Flood Dragon King and climbed onto its back along with the others. All the sorrow and joy had vanished from his face. Only emptiness remained. "Let's go," he said coldly. "We will pursue that god who escaped. We absolutely cannot allow him to enter eternal peace alive." The Divine Flood Dragon King acknowledged the order and began following the traces left by the crippled god. Chinmu turned back for one final glance. Village Chief's stone statue was slowly fading into the darkness behind them. He engraved that location firmly into his memory. "No matter where your soul has gone, I will find you. You are my family, my kin." He lifted his head toward the boundless darkness above. "Even if you fall into the hands of Earth Count, I will fight my way there and take you back." "Your Majesty," the Divine Flood Dragon King said cautiously, "my injuries are extremely severe. Even if we catch that god, we might not be his match." The corners of Chinmu's eyes wrinkled slightly. "I will refine pills to heal your wounds," he said calmly. "Do not worry, and besides, there are many flood dragons with us. He will not escape from my grasp." The Divine Flood Dragon King still felt uneasy. Hopefully, that god will pass by Surging River. Within Fengdu, the living realm of the dead, the bird-headed god guided Village Chief past a towering stone tablet. Village Chief lowered his head. He saw that his body was slowly being restored. First his heart formed, then his head, his torso. Even his limbs gradually returned. In that strange place he felt as though he were alive once more. The living realm of the dead, truly a marvelous world. Village Chief looked toward the bird-headed god and asked, "If I leave this place, will I be dead or alive?" The bird-headed god shook his head. "Of course you will be dead. But your fortune is good. Before your corporeal body perished, you managed to leave behind a single breath." He paused before continuing. "But do not think about returning to your old body. If you cross that boundary stone, your flesh and bones will dissolve instantly. You no longer belong to the world of the living. Come, someone is waiting for you. An old friend." Village Chief followed him, his sleeves fluttering in the wind. After a few steps, he suddenly halted and smiled bitterly. "I'm not used to having arms and legs. I've grown too accustomed to being crippled." They passed through the gates of hell in Fengdu and arrived at the first great city, one among many within this ghostly realm. The place looked as though it had just endured a fierce battle. Signs of war scarred the streets everywhere. Your old friend is waiting on the bridge of helplessness just ahead. The bird-headed god stopped. Raising one talon, he pointed forward with his beak in a guiding gesture. You still hate me? Village chief asked with a smile. I hate the scent of the living. The bird-headed god spread his wings and prepared to depart. You still possess a single breath within your corporeal body. That scent is unbearable to me. Village chief continued walking alone. Soon he saw the bridge of helplessness. A tall, sturdy figure stood upon the bridge with his back turned toward him. Beneath the bridge, mist churned endlessly, obscuring everything below. Village chief froze. That back looked strangely familiar. Suddenly, excitement surged through him. He quickened his pace toward the bridge. His steps became faster and faster as he rushed toward the figure. You, the tall, sturdy man turned around with a smile. You've finally come. I've waited a very long time for you. These years must have been hard. Village chief raised his leg and kicked the man straight off the bridge. You old bastard! He roared furiously. You tricked me into becoming the human emperor. You forced me to shoulder a burden I could never bear, while you hid here living a carefree life. Stop pretending to be dead. Climb back up here so I can beat you to death. Master, are you still alive? Beneath the bridge, the fog churned violently. A monstrous creature emerged from the mist and tried to seize the tall man, dragging him downward. Village chief was startled and moved to save him. But suddenly he stopped halfway. After waiting a moment, the man managed to fight the monster back and scramble up onto the bridge of helplessness again, panting heavily. Village chief lifted his leg again, ready to kick him off once more. The man hurriedly raised both hands. Stop! Stop! I really am dead. Otherwise I wouldn't have passed the human emperor's seal to you. My corpse and bones have long since rotted into mud. They're buried outside the Hall of Human Emperors. If you don't believe me, go dig them up yourself. Village chief's scalp tingled uneasily. You're not lying to me again? He asked suspiciously. What reason would I have to lie? The man replied with a smile. Those who arrive here are already half dead anyway. He gestured forward. Come, I'll take you to meet your grandmaster. He died even earlier than I did.